Good morning, I'm Cynthia Schneider, and I'm here this morning with the 2004 Mayor of Corona, Jeff Miller. Thank you for being with us this morning, Jeff.
You're welcome, Cynthia. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be here with Jeff this morning to talk about a very important problem, and that is a problem with drugs, substance abuse, and our youth. It's the problem that seems to be escalating. Younger and younger children are turning to drugs, and we have some kids here with us today that are going to talk to us about substance abuse and what they can do to influence their peers. But before that happens, Jeff, I'd like to ask you just a few questions.
Sure.
As mayor of the city, what are we doing about controlling substance abuse, particularly in youth, in the city of Corona?
Well, first of all, Cynthia, we live in a great community. Our violent crime rate, for example, is down 20% last year. Unfortunately, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, substance abuse is a problem in our community, and it's a problem in every community. And it affects all demographics, children and adults, both.
Let's specifically, I'm very aware Riverside County has always had a drug reputation. And I know that Corona does a very good job of controlling that in the city. But let's talk specifically about what we're doing to control substance abuse in the age level of children like this.
Well, there are two things that come to mind. First is the Corona Police Department and the City of Corona has a great working relationship with the Corona Norco Unified School District. And we partner with them on several educational programs to not only educate the children about substance abuse, but we also contract with them to provide a police officer in the schools to help educate the children and provide counseling services to the children at not only the intermediate schools, but the high schools.
And since it is moving down lower and lower, at least the media would tell us that in the grade levels, are we doing anything at the elementary school level?
There are not police officers specifically assigned to the elementary schools. As funding permits, we would explore that opportunity. But we do things like park unmanned or woman police cars in front of the schools to show a presence of police presence in the area to help deter drug and alcohol abuse.
Excellent point, because prevention is worth a pound of cure, right?
Yes.
Does it seem to be working? What do our statistics tell us?
Well, it's very hard to estimate, as you know. What we do is we try and be very proactive. For example, last year alone, the Corona Police Department attended 250 separate events in the community and reached out to approximately 24,000 children on helping educate them on alcohol and drug and substance abuse.
That's amazing. That's a full-time job. When you talk about 24,000 children and that many events, are we staffed to do that on an ongoing basis? Is the police department staffed to do that?
Well, our police department is one of the finest around, and they're able to utilize their resources to the best way possible. And they allocate the time and resources to do it because it's an extremely important problem that needs to be addressed in our community. So we aggressively attack it and try and provide the education for the children.
I guess the best test of whether or not it's working is kind of sitting right in front of us today.
Yes.
So maybe what we might want to do is go to the children and ask them some questions, let them tell us what's happening and if it's working. What do you think?
I would enjoy that.
It'll be 365 days till I can drive across town to help my cousin with his homework. You know what I'm saying? 52 weeks till I take my friends to the drive-thru after school. Check it out. A year of going out with my lady on the bus. I tried to cover my high, but CHP saw right through it. I lost my license, my job, my car, everything. I had to pay the price. Don't do it. Never drink and drive. Check yourself.
Well, Jeff, I guess the best test of whether or not our prevention programs are working are really sitting right here with us today. So
That's true.
what do you say? Let's meet the children.
That sounds great.
Let's start down at this end with Nick.
Oh, hello. My name is Nick. I'm at 7th grade and I'm 13 years old.
Hi, I'm Kelsey. I'm in 6th grade and I'm 12 years old. Hi, I'm Alyssa. I'm in 6th grade and I'm 11 years old.
Hi, I'm Landon. I'm in 6th grade and I'm 12 years old.
Hi, I'm Kelsey. I'm in 6th grade and I'm 11 years old.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm in 6th grade and I'm 12 years old.
Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm in 9th grade and I'm 15 years old.
And that's the children that we'll be talking with today. I have a question that just in general, we're talking about drug and substance abuse in younger and younger children. I'd like to just see just a raising of hands. Do any of you know any of your peers that use drugs? One out of all of us. Well, I guess that's a pretty good statistic. So maybe the prevention programs are extremely successful, Jeff.
Yes.
What do you think? Who can tell us why they think substance abuse is bad?
Alyssa.
Well, I think it can damage your body and your whole life would be ruined with the use of drugs.
And go ahead, Nick.
You also have a different mind. You think differently. You think always negative most of the time.
That's a really good point. It really affects the way you see the world, doesn't it? And the way you think about things.
Landon was next.
Well, I think drugs can damage everything that's part of your body, your appearance, even your social life.
Great. How about Sarah?
Well, drugs are, you know they're bad, so you're going to always be thinking that you're doing a bad thing and they're going to make you feel bad.
Great.
Kelsey.
Well, drugs, they damage your life, but they can also damage the lives of your loved ones too.
That's a very good point. Jeremy, what do you...
I think that the point of taking drugs is kind of pointless because it'll make you feel depressed and down, which will hinder your learning ability and athletic ability. And so I just think it's pointless with substance abuse.
All of you young people seem to have a really good handle on how drugs are damaging. How did you come to these conclusions? What kind of programs maybe in the schools or what kind of education have helped you learn about drugs and the negative effects? Anybody have an answer to that?
Nick?
The programs in my schools and also the videos that they show during my 5th period reading class. They show movies about how drugs are bad and they get right to the point.
Alyssa?
Well, I think for people who do take drugs, they get addicted to it, and you always see, like in TV or newspapers, that something bad happened because someone was on drugs.
So the TV helps to educate you sometimes as well, not just what's going on in school?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good to know, isn't it?
And I'd also like to ask if Red Ribbon Week, which comes together the 3rd week in October, has had any impact on any of the children. So Kelsey had her hand raised.
Oh, yeah. Well, mostly I get all the stuff about drugs from my parents telling me that it's bad and stuff. And also Red Ribbon Week at school when they tell us it's not good for you and stuff.
Can one of you describe what happens in your school during Red Ribbon Week? Landon.
Well, in Red Ribbon Week, what happens is that we get a ribbon that stays on our wrist for a week, and for that week, everyone that sees the ribbon, it reminds them that drug abuse is life use.
Well, we've got the slogan, right?
Yes,
so
it
they
is.
know what it is. Jeremy.
I think the whole school kind of unites together and says, hey, we're not going to do this, and it's bad for you. And we have, at my school, we had people come in and talk to us and telling us how it was wrong for us. And so I think it's really good, and it might help people that are on the edge kind of steer back onto the right path, too. So.
That's a great point, and that's what it's all about,
And I
right?
think the point he made that it unites people, because this really is a true community effort. The schools, the city, I personally participate in events at the schools, as well as not only our police officers, but our firefighters participate. So it's uniting the community is really a good description of what it does.
So the focus is not just at the schools, it really is a community-wide focus and to kind of bring an awareness of the problem and some of the positive solutions that are being offered out there. Anybody else have a comment about Red Ribbon Week? What's Sarah?
Well, everybody at my school, all the classrooms go out and sign a piece of paper that says they pledge not to do drugs for that year, and everybody says a pledge.
Nick?
And also, I just think that whenever Red Ribbon Week comes, it's like, it shows how bad drugs are because they go through all that trouble of decorating and just all the trouble going through it, just to try to tell you don't do drugs.
That's good. Well, Cynthia, I'd like to ask a question of the children that whether or not they believe there are any good drugs out there. Sarah had her hand up first.
Well, there is good drugs like medicines that help you with illnesses that the doctor can give you, but you have to use them in the right way for them to be good drugs.
Okay. Alyssa?
Well, there is good drugs that doctors and people give you to help cure the pain, but bad drugs cause the pain.
Can a good drug ever also be a bad drug? Kelsey?
Well, a good drug can be a bad drug if you take it without a doctor's guidance.
Jeremy?
I like to look at drugs as like water, because there's water, you need it to survive, and if you don't get water, then you'll die. And sometimes if you're about to die or you need something to help you, a doctor can prescribe some drugs and it'll help you survive. But then water can also, it can flood, damage, and devastate people and kill people, and drugs can also devastate and kill people too.
Well, that's a good analogy and right on point. Anybody else have a thought about that? Thought about, can a good drug become a bad drug? Nick?
I disagree with him that if you use it the right way, it can be a good drug, and if you use it a bad way, it will not be good.
Is that something that is talked about at school, or is this something that each of you is just determined on your own? Alyssa?
Yeah, you do talk about it at school, how you have to control the use of the good drugs you take and to get like the right dose of it if you have good drugs to take, and not to just, if you feel really bad, take a whole bunch of it and expect you to be better.
Jeremy?
I think family life also helps because people, they might feel depressed in their home or something, and then they feel drugs is the best way to go to. So I think that at schools and in community places, people need to help these other kids that are coming from split homes so that they don't fall into drugs and alcohol.
That's a really good point. Is there a place in your school where you feel safe to go if you were depressed, or if you were considering the use of drugs, or if you had a friend that was considering the use of drugs? Is there a safe place at school to go to with that kind of problem? Nick?
You have the counselors, because they can also help you, and they won't just, as soon as you say, oh, I've been taking drugs for the last 2 weeks, they won't start yelling and probably suspend you or something. They try to help you.
So you feel that the counselors are a very positive influence for you in the school, a good resource?
Alyssa had her hand up.
Yes, I think if you can go to a teacher you trust, or a principal, or someone in the office that you trust, and you can tell them, they can help you and not try to put you down about it.
Sarah?
Maybe there's a teacher that you really like, or a teacher that you could feel you could trust with your problems. They might help you.
Jeremy?
I think peer counseling also helps, because when you're talking to peers your age that they might have gone through the same thing, so they've already experienced it and they can help you also.
Can you just tell me a little bit, just very briefly, about the peer counseling program? What is that? Go ahead, Jeremy, you brought the topic up, so.
I know at my school you can, if you're having a problem and you don't know who to talk to, you can go fill out a slip, and then they'll call you out of class, and you can talk with them about whatever you need to talk about whether you're having problems in school or at home or with friends, and they'll help you and try to kind of steer you back out into the right path, and if you need to, they'll send you to a counselor or whatever needs to be done to help you out.
That's a great program.
Alyssa had her hand up.
I think if you really have a really good friend that you can trust and you think can help you out, you could tell them about your problems and they maybe can help you out with your drug problem.
And with the peer counseling program, do the rest of you know about peer counseling? Do they have it where everybody goes to school? Any school where they don't have it, raise your hand. Okay, so peer counseling is not everywhere, but maybe, Jeff, it sounds like it should be.
Yes, and that's something that can be brought up at the Joint Schools Committee, that is an interactive committee between the City Council and the school district, and we can address that.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
And see, that's why these kinds of programs are valuable, because it sounds as if sometimes young people are more inclined to go to a friend, someone their own age, rather than an authority figure, although it sounds like that in these cases they trust the counselors and some of the teachers in the school.
Your kids won't tell you what you want to know about ecstasy, but we will. Go to drugfreeamerica.org. Your kids might think they know everything about crystal meth. You really can. Go to drugfreeamerica.org.
I will never see her walk down the aisle in her graduation gown. I will never watch her fidget as her father grills her homecoming date. Because after she had a few wine coolers and a short drive, our family will never be the same. Her conviction means I won't have to warn her about drinking and driving for the rest of this decade. Set boundaries and consequences. Tell your teen, never drink and drive. Check yourself.
Oh, Sarah, do you think that math test tomorrow is going to be hard?
What math test?
I totally forgot.
We've known about it for 2 weeks.
Wow, Lucas coming in our direction.
He is kind of cute.
That's because he is cute.
Him?
Please, you guys must have no taste.
Hi. How are you guys doing today?
Why? I guess we're fine anyway.
Fine. Fine.
Get to the point.
There's a point to this?
Yeah, you guys want some drugs?
Come on, girls, there's no point sticking around here.
Aren't you coming?
Just a minute.
Can't you wait?
Yeah, take some drugs. Good for the soul.
Bad for your brain.
And your heart.
And it could kill you.
Forget about those two. Worry about those ones. Get them hooked on it.
Yeah, they're more into me anyway. Excuse us. Yeah, guys, these drugs are half off. Only if you sell these drugs with 3 other people.
Well,
I'm not sure.
We heard the whole thing.
And none of us want your offer.
I can make my own choices.
Well, I think I'll go with them.
Thank you. Finally, one of you comes to your senses.
Finally.
Let's go to my house.
But what? He's so cute.
You'll thank us for this later.
But,
For your own good.
Come on.
Twerp? Didn't get any of them hooked on it.
Sorry. What was I thinking? We don't want drugs.
Yeah, you don't need drugs to impress a boy.
But he was cute.
Yeah.
So, about that math test.
Hold up, you guys. I want to be your friend. I don't do drugs.
Man, you shouldn't do drugs. My cousin died off drugs. The weed kind. I don't need drugs. You guys.
I think maybe the next question that weighs heavy on my mind, I don't know about yours, is how can we influence the peers of these young people? How can we see to it that maybe they don't begin experimenting with drugs?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think through education and through the programs that are ongoing, we need to make sure we not only continue them, but we enhance them and provide communication and education not only to all the students, but to the parents. Because I think one of the things you heard here throughout the comments were that the parents were a key aspect of whether or not they got involved in drugs. So communication of the parents, communication of the children is going to be the key.
What about you kids? is how do you think, either you or Mayor Miller or someone else, how can we keep your peers from beginning to experiment with drugs? Any thoughts on that?
Alyssa had her hand up first.
I think what you could do is set a good example for them and tell them you don't have to follow the people who are taking drugs, and just set a good example and hope that they will follow your good example and not take the drugs.
Kelsey.
Well, you could sit down and talk to them and explain to them how drugs bad can be and how they can ruin their life. But whatever you do, you can't just ignore them. That'd be like turning your back on someone who's drowning.
That's a great
Wow.
attitude, Kelsey.
Wow.
I really appreciate that statement. Landon?
Well, I think that we should do our part in fighting against drugs, and maybe it will influence others to do theirs.
What do you think your part is?
Well, I think that we should maybe stay in this group right here, and I think we should just fight against drugs more often than we should.
Excellent.
Good.
Jeremy?
I think if you establish yourself as a leader and that people look up to, then they will follow you and want to be like you and do what you want to do. And I also think that making people have drug-free lives, it should be fun, you know, because some kids might say, oh yeah, this is boring, I don't want to do this. But if you make it fun and keep them interested, then they will be inspired to stay drug-free.
Good point.
Nick.
Okay, well, some of the probably guest speakers at the schools that talk to you about drugs mostly are like people that study them. They haven't really actually done drugs. So what I think is the guest speakers should be people that actually did do drugs, and is like get a guest speaker that messed up their life and they did drugs before. And then
One that got back on the right track, or one that really is still messed up? Which one would have more influence?
I think both, but mostly the one that still has a messed up life, because then they can see what they look like and like if they have just a messed up life.
Sometimes one visual image is a whole lot more powerful than a lot of words, isn't it?
It's like the commercial when the woman, it was a long time ago, but it was a woman with a cigarette that put a cigarette in her throat and smoked it like that. That gets a lot of people like that.
That made me think. How about any of the rest of you? What do you feel would be most powerful in influencing your peers not to start?
Sarah.
Well, if you're not one of the peers, because most people start by a peer pressuring them to do drugs. So if you try and not have, like, be friends with them and make them feel confident about themselves so they won't have to do drugs, then the peers' pressure won't push them as hard.
So peer influence, providing a positive peer influence as opposed to a negative influence. We all know that your peers can really influence you. Kelsey?
Yeah, I think you should just be a good influence and just make a statement that it's not good to do drugs and it's just not cool. Just, you don't think that you're cool because you're not.
And everybody wants to be cool. So if somebody's telling you you're not cool, it makes you stop and think. Landon?
Well, I think that we should treat everyone as an equal, and people that aren't treated as an equal won't feel like they have to cure an open space by using drugs.
Alyssa had her hand up.
Yeah. I think what you should do is give the positive peer pressure where you don't, like, if they want to take drugs, or if they're like from messed up families and they feel that they have to take drugs to have the whole inside of them feel that you should just give them positive peer pressure.
I think we have time for one more.
Nick had his hand up.
Okay, well, most of the people that do take drugs are people that are called names and stuff like that. So before around 5th grade, I had a problem. I'm not going to say, but I had a problem, and people always used to, just make fun of me and everything. But since I got rid of that problem, I'm treated normal. And everybody that's been treated different, I don't call them names like bad boy or stuff like that.
You know,
Good.
That is so important, because if you don't feel good about yourself
Yes.
and you don't feel accepted. You feel different. It leads to a lot of negative things. Thank you for bringing that up, Nick. That's a really important
Very good
point.
Very good point.
I think we've learned a lot here today, Jeff.
We sure have. We sure have. Got a lot of good feedback.
So where can we go with this?
Well, clearly, I think education that we've already talked about through the parents, through the Red Ribbon Week, making sure there's a presence in the community, making sure our police department has the resources so there's a bigger presence at the schools will help, making sure that messages are communicated through media, positive messages, understanding that our children have tough choices and have choices, and making sure they have an option to make the right choice.
Great. And thank you, kids, who brought up new ideas and some new approaches for some programs and things, and I'm sure that the mayor will take those back to the city and we will look into those, because we can learn best from those of you who are closest to the issues.
That's right.
And I think that that's exactly what has happened today, Jeff.
That is.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Kids, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.